Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hey everyone, it's Tony G here, and I'm so excited I got to be on a side quest and talk about one of my favorite games. Just a little about me. Uh, I'm a patron and sometimes guest host on the Secret Levels podcast as well as the Retro Hangover podcast. Two really great shows that talk about retro gaming, video games, and they have a lot of dick and fart jokes, which I tend to gravitate to. And the game I'm going to be talking about today is one of my favorite games that came out of nowhere. It's The Binding of Isaac. So I have been playing Repentance. There's a few versions of it. All of them are good, but let's get into it. So first off, how I got into this game. It was 2020 COVID. I just came back from a deployment and I found Hades and I was really into that roguelike. And then once I beat Hades and felt empty about my life, my buddy Goops, who is one of the hosts of the Secret Levels podcast, recommended Binding of Isaac since he's like, oh, you like roguelikes? You're going to like this one. And I really did. It's been my comfort game. I'm almost a triple dead god, which dead god is the ultimate achievement. It's where you get all the achievements. Just as a reference point, there's about 700 achievements that you have to get that, maybe six. Anyway, so I have been playing this game for, I just looked up my Steam count, 1,672 hours. And then, yeah, so that's how long I've been playing this game. Granted, 200 of those are probably just me walking away and leaving it open, either out of frustration or getting distracted. But this game has been like a comfort game. I really do love going back to it and just playing it, and I can kind of de-stress. So that's how I found it. The story of it is also something that greatly intrigues me. The story is messed up. The whole premise of the game is that your mom has been watching a lot of the crazy fundamentalist Christian broadcasting networks, and she basically gets it in her head that God is talking to her and God has told her to murder you, much like the original Isaac in the Bible. So Isaac, being the crafty little 8-year-old that he is, or five, maybe six, I don't know how old he is. He's a child, super childy, but he goes into a crawl space and he has to escape his mom. And everything from there, you kind of find out about as Isaac's home life versus school life and stuff in these short little snippets. The story is never really like formally presented of what happens, but there's about 10 different endings to the game, maybe a little bit more. And each one kind of shows like a different facet of what potentially happened to Isaac, but they all kind of allude to different things that I don't want to spoil. But the story is messed up and it deals with a lot of crazy Southern Baptist stuff, which I kind of grew up around. So it was fun to see. So with that, I'm going to get into the gameplay. The gameplay is one of my favorite aspects of it. I really did not like roguelikes that much until I found Hades. And then I found this game is like the pinnacle of roguelikes. And I think that's just because it's been around so long and it's had four different expansions to it. So the original was a Flash game that they remade in Rebirth. So Rebirth kind of remade the game. And then they did Afterbirth, which added on to that. Then they did Re- Afterbirth Plus, and then they did Repentance. So this game has had almost five iterations of itself, and they're still patching it and improving it today and kind of doing balancing. But with that much stuff to it, there's over 1,000 items in this game. And if you're a gamer that likes roguelikes, this means there's so many synergies and stuff that you're just trying to figure out and explore. I'm still finding new stuff and new ways to do stuff after 1,500 hours. Like it's crazy the way that I'm like, oh wow, that was cool, or oh wow, that was a bad synergy. What was I thinking? So with that, the gameplay is set up in rooms, very similar to Zelda's Link to the Past. I think that's what it was based on. So you see a lot of homages to Link to the Past in Zelda games, and even some Illusion of Gaia, the Quintet series. There's definitely reference points in there, but they're all through the game. They do have like the skulls that shoot stuff. It's so many references in this game, and I think that's something that can only be done with 4 expansions to it. It's really cool to see and understand some of these points and be like, oh, I know what that is, or that's a weird mysticism reference that they have in there. Uh, yeah. So the items, I said there's over 1,000. They range from anywhere like tarot cards to reverse tarot cards. They have different runes, which are kind of just here or there. And then you have passive or activated items. Passive items can be anywhere from stat ups to how fast you go, and the standard stats. Not too bad, not too great. But some of the items change what they do. So with this game, you'll find that some of the items completely change the way the game plays. And not only that, there's characters too, and characters can change the way that the baseline goes. So you really have an infinite combo of stuff almost, it feels like. And it can be kind of overwhelming too, because the one drawback and one real thing that I do not like about this game is they do not have in-game item descriptions. But thankfully, you can download a mod that's pretty easy if you're playing on Steam, and it doesn't mess with the trophy aspect to it. So super helpful. Highly recommend that if you're going to play this game, because there's so many items. It's so hard to keep track of who does what or what does what with what. And it's just like, ugh. But at the same time, when you get a badass combo and you're tearing through the game, you feel like a god. With that being said, the items can also, there's a lot of biblical references, and not only that, there's a lot of satanic references in it, depending on what set of items. So each kind of pool that you can get from, like there's a devil pool, there's an angel pool, there's a shop pool, because there is a shop in the game that you have to collect pennies and potentially buy items. There's just so much going on to this, and it's so hard to explain in such a short time. But really, the joy I get from this game is just seeing becoming badass and unstoppable, like I think you do in any game. And especially with roguelikes, you want to break the game. And there's a lot of combos that can break the game. But unfortunately, there's some combos that can break you. So you kind of have to be aware of what's going with what. I think the other thing I really like about this game too is the community around it online. The Reddit and the Discord servers that I'm in, they're really helpful. Some of them can be condescending pricks, but for the most part, you have people that are trying to help you enjoy the game or figure out. I will say another thing about the game that's kind of hard to figure out, which is why the community is so great, is it can be a little obtuse at times, especially when you're trying to go for like the higher level trophies or figuring out how to get a few of the secret characters in it. So it can be very obtuse. It's even easy to mess up if you're going to try to do a certain thing, and you can easily get sidetracked and forget that you're going to do that thing and completely mess up your run. The runs last for about 20 to, I'd say about 3 hours, depending. If you really want to take it slow, most of the games that I play are about an hour, maybe 40 minutes tops. But that's if I get a good run going. So some of the rooms, there's a lot of range of enemies, and it's a lot of trial and effect, which I love and hate about roguelikes. Some of the enemies you're going to find are completely annoying, like Bloat, which is a fat globby monster that pops out his eyeballs eventually, and he'll use beam attacks. But the beam attack triggers are so fast, he'll wind up taking you out. So some of the bosses are hard, but a lot of the bosses are, there's probably about 20 different base models for it, and then they have each have their own variants. So you could get a boss that likes to spawn things, but maybe he spawns a different enemy like spiders instead of flies. And it can be pretty frustrating, but also fun to see and to conquer. Uh, I think some of the randomness of it too can be a little bit frustrating, but that's also the joy of it. So when I talk about this game, I know I'm kind of beating it down a little bit, but I think that's the fun part is when you overcome these obstacles that it throws at you. So a special thanks to Matt for having me come and talk about one of my comfort games. I really do find this game to ease my depression, or if I'm having anxieties about the world, I can go play as an 8-year-old boy. that's trying to not get killed by his mom. It really just helped relaxes the soul. And with that being said, this has been a side quest, and happy gaming, guys.
Do you feel like you're the only person in your circle who wants to go deep about video games regularly?
We were like that too, until now.
Welcome to Crossplay Conversations, the brand new bi-weekly topical video game podcast from Luke Lewis,
Joseph Hooper,
and Jacob McCord.
With many years of breaking it down separately on shows like the Left Behind Game Club, Player Podcast, and Lukewarm Games, the gang is finally coming together to publish their gaming group chat in audio form every other week.
Expect roundtable reviews of the latest games, profiles of upcoming indies, and insightful conversations about essential topics in the video game industry. All with a mostly positive, insightful, and fun style.
Crossplay Conversations debuts on August 1st with brand new episodes hitting every other Tuesday. Help us out by subscribing on your podcast platform of choice to get the first episodes delivered straight to your feed.
And follow us on Twitter at Crossplay Convos for updates about the show.
Cheers and happy gaming.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.